Good morning, everybody. This is Shomanil Chaudhary, a pre-sales engineer from Kovair Software. In today's demonstration, I will present how you can manage agile projects by using Kovair features and functionalities. As you know, Kovair is a fully web-based product where all the features and functionalities are available to the users by means of a browser. Now let me log in as a product owner to show you the navigation how you can use Kovair. So I'm logging in as a product owner who eventually is also an administrator of the system. So I'm logging in as Tom, and as logs in, you can find here is the list of workspaces that he is having access to. Now Kovair installation is organized in terms of it has site at the top. In this case you can find Kovair, and underneath a site you can create multiple workspaces, and you can assign these workspaces to the respective groups of users as they're working in. Workspace is a concept where it's like a work area where you can configure a single solution, or even you can configure multiple solutions. For example, let's say you can have requirements management, test management, defect tracking in one particular workspace, or else you can also have only a defect tracking solution in the workspace. So Kovair is fully flexible in terms of how you are configuring your workspace to incorporate a particular solution. Now as Tom has logged in, you can find he has landed up to the home under my task section. Now my task is like a central inbox kind of a page which enlists all the pending tasks of the logged in user. For example, if Tom is a user who is having access to workspace A, B, and C, and in each of these workspaces if he is having some pending tasks, then my task would list all the pending tasks coming from all these three different workspaces. Now this particular bar is called the object bar in Kovair, and here you can find that we have defined a number of entities for this particular workspace. In this case we are using Agile solution as the workspace, and underneath this Agile solution, projects, release, product backlog, sprints, daily scrums, test cases, etc. So these are the specific entities that we have used. So these are the specific entities that we have used in configuring this particular workspace. Now I would be using the term entities quite a lot in this demo. To give you a concept of entity, it's something like similar to a logical table in a database. So entity is having unique characteristics, and each of these entities are characterized by defining attributes of specific nature which corresponds to each of these entities. Each of these entities in Kovair can be linked to one another by means of traceability relationships, by means of which you can link a project record to a release or example, or it could be some product backlogs linked to a release, by which we call it a release backlog, so something of that sort. Now let's start the demo. As you can see under this projects, we have a particular project which is demo tool integration project. So let's say this is the particular project that's getting worked on, and initially based on some initial estimation, planning, etc., we have decided that this particular project is supposed to be a 1-year project. So let's say we have planned that the start date and the finish date for this particular project is it would start from 1st January and it's going to finish in 31st of December. So with this, we categorize this particular project to certain releases. So we have decided that each this entire project for 1 year is divided into 3 releases, of 4 months each. January to April is one release, May to August is another, and the third one is from September to December. So accordingly, let's update these fields of the planned start date, planned finish date, etc. And we can update these fields for this corresponding each of these releases. So let's go ahead and update the plan start date and the plan finish date for each of these releases. So to edit each of these records, you do not have to navigate to the release page, you can directly do it from here. So clicking on edit, let's enter the planning start and finish date. So let's say for this particular release, we start from 1st Jan, and we we are entering the plan finish date on April 30th. So save this. Let's go to the next release and update the same for that release also. Cancelling this would take me to the relation section once again, and from here select this record and accordingly update the plan started and the plan finish date for this 2011 August release record also. So in this case it would be 05/01/2011, and the plan finish date is let's say 08/31/2011. So these are all the basic estimations that we are doing. Cancelling this, again going back to the relation list to select the third record. And we would enter the duration for this particular release starting from September till December 31st. So my releases are being planned, and now let's log in as a different user. Let's say a business analyst, and let's say he is interacting with his customers and he enters a product backlog. Now in Kovair, we can categorize an entity into further groups. For example, in this case, what we have done is we have categorized the product backlog into 3 different categories. The epic is at the top, which is a very high level requirement given by the customer, which has been decomposed into further features underneath, and each of the features are further broken down into a number of user stories. These user stories are eventually being estimated, rated, and these are eventually worked on by assigning them to the corresponding releases and further into smaller sections, which are sprints. So if you now notice over here, so if we look into that this particular epic, so let's say we select this particular hierarchy, that's epic to feature to story. So let's say we have this particular epic at this top, which is, let's say, the Outlook integration. So this is a very high level story, this is a very high level requirement given by the customer. Now this particular epic has been decomposed into further down the line features. For example, let's say contact management and task management are these 2 features which the epic is broken into. Now in each of these features are further broken down into a number of user stories. So let's say Alan Analyst enters a new user story under the contact management feature. So let's go back and go ahead and create a new user story from here. So as we have categorized the product backlog into a number of uh, epics, features, user stories, issues, etc. Similarly, Kovair allows you to configure a different form for each of these categories so that you can segregate the attributes or the fields corresponding to each of these categories by into different forms so that it becomes easier for the specific user groups who are working on each of these categories to directly work on the specific fields that they intend to work. So from this particular drop down we select user story as the particular form, and here I enter a user story. Let's say would like the user story to be, let's say, export contact information to Excel. Okay, so that's the title. We enter some description and we save this. Now, as you know, Kovair has an inbuilt process engine which triggers a respective set of tasks once an entity item is submitted. So by virtue of that, if we now look into the specific view, the process view, you would find that automatically a task has been generated for the product owner, that's Tom, to review and give his feedback that whether this particular user story would be uh, approved, would be implemented for being incorporating in the product. So let's log in as Tom and let's see how his tasks look like in his My Task page. So let's open a different browser and let me log in as Tom. Now, as you can see that earlier, as I was telling that My Task enlists all the pending tasks for the logged user. Here, the particular task has been assigned to Tom and it's visible from the My Task page. So going into the details of the task, here is the source item type, which is actually the parent entity uh, under which this particular task has been created, and this is the record, this is the entity record which on submission has given rise to this task. So here is some instructions provided also, which talks about the details of the things that the user need to work on. And under the parent fields, here are the fields that has been incorporated in the task form, which eventually are the fields of the product backlog entity. But Kovair task management facilitates incorporation of the entity fields within the task form so that you do not need to navigate into the different parts of the application to do your work. You can concentrate on your task and do your job from right there. Eventually, you can also check the parent description and you can put in you can check the description of the entity from here itself. So now Tom, after reviewing this particular user story, feels yes, it's quite an important feature, and from here, let's say he approves this particular user story so that it moves, and let's say we make Tom master as the responsible person who would be looking after the implementation of this particular user story. So with the information provided, we can save this. Also, Tom can provide some comments at this level saying why or what is his feedback being that has raised to approve this particular task, sorry, the product backlog. So from here you can add new comment and enter. So some comments being provided by Tom. Once this comment is saved, this comment is gets automatically associated to the product backlog, which is the export contact information to Excel user story. So once all the information being provided, the task is set to complete. Now the process is actually configured by a workspace administrator, but as an end user, if anybody wants to find out that where or at what particular point this process is currently in for this user story, so here is an information. Sorry, I clicked on the wrong place, I'm sorry about that. So as an end user, if you want to view how the process is moving forward, you can click on this particular link and this would take you to a read-only process designer, or the read-only image of the process, which shows you real time at which particular position the process is currently standing and which are the current pending activities that are supposed to be done by the specific groups of users. So as you can see, the review as it's being done by product owner, now the current pending task, which is highlighted in blue, is to rate by the analyst. So Mark being the analyst of this uh, product backlogs, so let me log in as Mark and rate this product backlog based on whatever he thinks about this functionality. So let me log in as Mark into a different browser. So let me log in as Mark. And like in the previous cases, Mark would also get his task in his my task page. So he directly open up the task from here and put in what he thinks about the rating of this particular product backlog B. So editing it, let's say he says this should be a must be functionality. Save this and complete the task. If required, he could have also provided some comments which would have also been enlisted along with the comments provided by Tom. So here as you can see that as the users are completing their task, the process is moving forward from one activity to another, so that no users need to be notified by the others that now you have a task, you have to do it. So you as a user are concentrating on your jobs, and the system is taking care of the allocation of the jobs automatically as you have defined in the process. So now you can see that a set of team members like Archie, Christiana and George has been assigned a task to estimate this user story and provide their feedback on what they think about the effort involved in implementing this user story. So let me log in as each of these three users and let me show you how you can provide some estimations with respect to this product backlog. So let me log out as Mark and log in as Archie. Archie is a member of the effort estimation team. As she logs in, she gets her task in the My Task page. Here is it. She opens it up from here, and now here is the effort estimation grade which is provided, which is incorporated in the task form, where Archie and the other users can provide their feedback and provide their uh, data about what they think of the effort that's required to implement this user story. So this is a grid field which you can create in Kovair that allows you to record multiple information with respect to a record. So here in this case, let's say it says it's a complex one, the number of functional points involved. Let's say he says it's 20. The effort mechanism that sort of is the planning poker. If you're using any others, you can put it. Let's say that the estimated value is he thinks about 150, and let's say the adjustment factor is 15%. If you want to enter the velocity also, you can provide it. With this information provided, he completes the task. Now let me log in as Christiana, who is a member of the development team, and let her provide the estimation of what she thinks about this user stories effort. So let me log in as Christiana. So like Archie, Christiana also gets her task and provide the estimation in a similar way. So here as you can see that as Christiana goes in for entering what she thinks about the effort required to implement this user story, at the same time she does not have access to edit the effort entered by Archie. So let's say she thinks about its 22 functional points. The estimated value is 165. She thinks that the adjustment factor is again a 15%. Saves her estimation. Once done, she also complete her task. Now, as you can see from here, now if I refreshes this process list, you will find that the process gets updated real time, and here now only George is left with the estimation. So a member who is not a part of the current task, or the person who is not currently involved with the working of this particular product backlog can very well come into this product backlog list and can understand that now this particular user story is in the estimation stage by the team members. So you need not to be even if you are not a member of the current working team, but still you can understand that currently at which particular phase this user story is currently into. So now let me log in as George. In similar way, he also provide his estimation. So now he thinks it's a bit different. He thinks it's medium. He thinks the functional point is 25. The estimated value it's bit less. He thinks that the adjustment factor is 17%. So here you can notice that as you are entering the values, you can define calculated fields in Kovair which automatically calculates based on certain predefined formulas the adjusted effort. So the adjusted effort is working on the calculated effort, and 15% of 320, which is eventually you are getting the adjusted effort. Okay, so with this effort entered, George completes the task, and now the process move forward again to Tom. Let me now refresh the process list. So now the task lies with Tom Master, who is eventually the Scrum Master, to finalize the estimation based on the inputs provided by Archie, Christian, and George. So let me log in as Tom to provide his final estimation on this user story. So now going into this particular task, he gets the estimation provided by the three team members in a read-only format. So he does not have any access to edit or modify any information that has been provided by Archie, Christian, or George. So based on the adjusted effort provided over here, let's say does some calculations, you can do some calculations, and he entered a planning effort, let's say to be 50. So this is Tom Master's estimation, and with this completes the task. Now at this level, the product backlog process stops, or it's paused for certain other actions to be done in the different phase of this project. So let's say at this stage, the process for the product backlog keeps waiting until in a Scrum, it's decided that uh, what are the sprints or the release backlog would be, and what are the sprints that will be assigned to that particular release, and which are the backlog items that would be worked on the sprints. And once those backlogs are being rated, prioritized inside a sprint and being worked on, till that point this product backlog or the user story would wait before it moves on to the further consecutive set of tasks, which are like designing that user story, development and testing. So before moving forward, it has to be allocated to a sprint. So here is the information which says that this user story waits to be assigned to a sprint to a release. So let's now log in as Tom Master, and let's he create a scrum based on a meeting done on what would be the decisions that are taken, which will be eventually covering up these informations. So let's go ahead and create a Scrum record which records all the information that has been decided on the meeting. So let's say first Scrum meeting on 24th December. So let's say today is the meeting date. The Scrum Master is Tom. The members, let's say, are Archie, Christiana, George, the product owner Tom, and you can also put in what are the decisions that has been done, taken in the remarks. And as you save this record, there is a different process which has been configured for the Scrum, which now triggers those set of activities to be done by the respective people. So as you can see, once the Scrum has been submitted, activity or a task has been assigned to Tom to prepare the release backlog. So based on the decisions being done, let's say Tom now assign some backlog items to this particular release. So gets into this release. Here is the April release, and let's say he decides that in this particular release the following items would be implemented. So let's say these 6 items has been decided to be implemented in the January to April release within this time period. So once that's been done, he gets into his task and complete it. So once the release backlog is prepared, he can directly mark his task as completed. Going back to the Scrum record once again, as you can see, the next task is to create a sprint and link it to the Scrum. So this is also a task assigned to Tom Master. So let's say he goes into the sprint and create a new sprint. It has been decided in the Scrum that the sprint would be, let's say, a length of 4 weeks, and based on this information creates a new sprint. So let's say the sprint is January 2011. Save this. Now, as like product backlog or Scrum, also once a sprint is being submitted, a process it's there that triggers the consecutive set of tasks for the respective groups of people. So if you want to view that how the sprint process is configured, or at which particular position this sprint process is currently in, so here you can see that it's currently in the state of reviewing the sprint and provide a sprint link by the Scrum Master. So again, from here, from the sprint itself, so apart from my task page, you can also complete your task from the list itself. So you can click on this link, and that would also take you to the details of the task form. So here are the fields of the sprint entity exposed in the task page. So from here, let's say Scrum Master Tom approve the sprint and provide a sprint duration that it's supposed to start from, let's say, January 1st, and it's going to be till 31st of Jan. Save this, and with this information provided, complete the task. Okay, so sprint duration cannot be completed, so let's say we go ahead and enter the sprint duration. So completing the task now assigns the next task to Paul to assign the sprint to release. So now let me log in as Paul, to assign a release to the sprint. So Paul gets to his My Task page, finds his task and get into the details. So here he is supposed to assign the sprint to a particular release. So from the release drop down, he selects the particular release, that's the 2011 April release. Save this. And completes the task. Now if you remember that the sprint process, the product backlog process, which was waiting for the assignment of this particular user story to a particular sprint, and the sprint was supposed to be assigned to a release. So now at this point, you can find it's still waiting for the sprint to be assigned a number of backlog items. So now if you now look into this sprint process, it is having the activity to link, prioritize and rank backlogs, and this is supposed to be done by Tom. So we can click from here to open the task, and from here we will link the backlogs which we think that we will be implementing it in the January sprint. So here you can find that out of all the user stories, currently it shows me only those user story that we have linked to the release which we have assigned to the sprint. So the backlog items are being filtered based on the release that we have selected and associated the sprint to. So let's say from here we select these three that we would be working on in the January release, the January sprint. So we select this and we mark the task as complete. Now as we complete the task, here you find that now the sprint process it's put into hold, and it will wait until all the backlog items which eventually are linked into the sprint are worked on, implemented and completed, and once all are completed, the sprint process would move to the verification process. So now let's go back to see how the product backlog process is moving forward, which was waiting in the wait node. So the condition which was there to so the sprint process, the backlog process, which was earlier waiting for being to be assigned into a sprint, now has moved forward to the next set of activity, which is to design. The design activity is assigned to Archie, who happens to be the architect of or the designer for this user story. So let me log in as Archie. And once he gets his task, so as he designs it, he can also enter what is the amount of work or the time that he has worked on this particular task. So let's say he can say it's 15 hours that he has worked on this design. So now as he enters the task and completes it, the development activity for the developers would start. And here, if you go back to the product backlogs, you will find that now if I check the process view over here, so now it's with the development group as well as with the testing group to code and create test scripts to test the user story. So I will not go into the details of the further I will not go into the details of this user story, the further process over here. So I hope you have got the flow in which how a project got started, how it has been broken down into a number of releases, how the backlogs being entered, rated, estimated, how they are in a scrum being decided that what would be the release, how the sprint is being created, and how the sprints would be uh, decided on how long would a sprint be in a particular release, how they're assigned to a release, and then the backlogs have been assigned to a release, and further out of the complete set of backlogs assigned to that release, what are eventually the specific set of backlogs which would be assigned, and how it's assigned to a sprint which eventually gets worked on. So from here you can very well understand that the information that we have entered from the various tasks as the different users got their job, and as they have done it and completed, each of the information have been updated to the corresponding set of parent records, which in case could be a product backlog or a sprint or a scrum. So the users concentrated on their tasks, they worked from there, and the information inputted by them has updated the records accordingly. So now if we want to track the complete hierarchy that of all the artifacts that got involved in this entire process, so you can go ahead and we can check from the topmost level the project traceability. That if we check from here, so let's say we select the ID such as 10, the project that we worked on. So let's say we give the ID such as 10, and here are the releases underneath each the project that we started from. So here are the releases. Now underneath each release here you can find that what's the sprint. Underneath the sprint here you can find what are the user stories inside the sprint that has been decided that we will be working on each. Again, underneath this backlog you can find that to which feature it's being linked to, and if you further drill down from that particular feature you get to know the epic. So the traceability page allows you to see, and it allows you to trace back or trace forward to all the entity items that has been created linked to the corresponding artifacts, and that this gives you a complete visibility of the project and the various items that's getting created during the as the project moves from the initiation to completion. Now moving on to the reports, Kovair has rich graphical as well as tabular reports. which eventually you can incorporate in the dashboard for the management to view the various aspects about the project information. So here is a Gantt chart that's showing the different users information with respect to the task that they have got and how much they have completed, or what's the amount that's remaining. At the same time, it's taking a little bit of time in loading. So here you can see that as you are getting as you are working on each of these particular sprints, you can configure such rich burn down charts, which eventually gives you, let's say at the sprint level, you have done some research works, you have done some maintenance works. So for each of these backlogs, how the amount of time is getting calculated, and what's the amount of time after every day, that how much time it's left with on such and such date. So here are some examples of the rich burn down charts that you can create in Kovair. Also, you can create some distribution reports where you can check that how the criticality of the various backlog items are distributed over the priority of each. Also, you can have a multi-project burn-down chart where you can find that among all the projects that are getting worked on, what's the amount of time that's remaining for these projects to be completed. Here is an example of the velocity graph for each of the sprints. Also, you can have a distribution of the backlog items based on the status that this particular sprint is containing. Uh, each of these graphical reports is having an added functionality, which is a drill down uh, functionality that if you click on a particular sector, it will show you the number of records that's satisfying that particular sector of that pie chart. Also, you can click on a record from here, which would take you to the details of it, and you can view the details of the record directly from our report. So this drill down facility is really helpful if you want to not only look into the graphics, but also if you want to navigate to the details of a record. So all these various kinds of, here is an estimation legend which you can keep in the dashboard level for all the users to view, that when they are doing some estimations and all, what's the basis on which they would be doing some estimations. So some reference checkpoints that you can see. So this kind of tabular reports are also available, apart from the graphical ones. So you can have a multi-level grouping tabular reports, which gives you a visibility about the backlogs or the tasks that the different users are having based on the the owners of the task. And this kind of a list would help you to understand that which are the users that are having some pending tasks currently at this point. So these are some of the graphical reports that you can create in Kovair, and which helps you in depicting or reflecting the various aspects of the project. So with this, I complete my demo presentation on Agile, and thank you everybody for being a part of this presentation. And if you have any questions or queries, please contact Kovair by sending an email at sales@kovair.com. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Bye bye.